Good morning, everyone. And let's begin the day with charity. Charity. Tzedakah saves from death. Tzedakah brings everything happy by means of charity. The custom is you give charity and then you pray. Pray for what you need. Let's also thank God. We should also thank God for everything that He's given us in the past and everything that He is. Odu Lashem Kitov Kilon Chazda. Thank you, God, you are good and your kindness is eternal. Now, let us proceed. Proceed. Let's proceed, huh? I don't know what the word is. Here we go. Let's proceed, right, to finishing the Dvar Malchut. Here we go. So if you remember what we've been learning in the past week about the Jewish people and how they are one with God, but nevertheless, they, so to speak, the soul from its own free will came into the world to perfect the world, every Jew. And that's our job. Our job is to perfect the world, to make the world a good place. And to do this, God helps us, and God also gives us a reward. And the Rebbe enumerated 5 rewards that the soul gets, even though that really we don't deserve a reward because we're totally one with God, and we're also slaves, so to speak, of God. We don't own anything of our own, but nevertheless we do. And this should encourage us and inspire us and enable us, to empower us to not be affected negatively by the world. The world shouldn't make us depressed or afraid or confused, but rather we always can remember who we are, that we're Jews, and as Jews we're connected essentially to the creator of the universe, and our purpose is, our responsibility to the creator of the universe is to improve the universe, improve the world. And that's done by means of living according to the guidelines and the directions of the creator of the universe in the Torah. Good. Now, Chabad has uniquely taken this thing on themselves, even though that it's really supposed to be for every Jew. So that's what the Rebbe is talking about. That's the idea of Moshiach, and that's why it's said that the Rebbe of Chabad, whichever Rebbe, there's 7 Rebbes, each one of them is the Moshiach of his generation. But says the Rebbe, we can attach this also to what we read in this week's Torah portion. We read in the end of, so did we do this before? No, we did this yesterday. Did we do this yesterday? Yes, we did. I think we did, huh? All right, let's do it again. You know what? Let's do it again. It's worthwhile doing. Here we go. We did it yesterday. Here. We can attach this to what we said before, that in the end, I'm sorry, I said this before, we're now approaching the holidays, main holidays of Judaism, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot. The holidays of the year, all of them have connection with the Torah portion that they're read in. Now we're reading the month of Elul. The month of Elul, let me just make this here. Chodesh Elul, the month of Elul, is the last month of the year. And in it, we make an inventory on all of the service of God of the previous year, or if we did any service of God. And even if we did, every single moment we did what God wanted, loving God, fearing God, loving the Torah, being in awe of the Torah, respecting the Torah, loving every Jew, respecting every Jew. doing the commandments. We did everything we're supposed to do, but nevertheless, there's no end to the genuineness with which we can do the commandments. When you realize who you're working for, so then you do things in a totally different way. So the month of Elul is to think, what are we doing here in the world? Why are we here? Is this really true? Or the Jewish people were really here to fix the world up and to put meaning and blessing into the world? And if so, did we really do it properly? That's the month of Elul. We make this reckoning. In order to fix and to complete everything in the service of God in Torah and prayer and the commandments and good deeds by means of what we call tshuva. Like we hinted at before, that it says that in the beginning of this week's Torah portion, it says that if you go out to war on your enemy and you take up a prisoner, it says if you take a Gentile woman as your prisoner, so you're not allowed to keep her as a slave. If you want to have any relations with her, if you have to keep her in your house, and it says, and if you have to marry her, there's special conditions involved with it, but nevertheless, it says that if you find when you're in battle and there's a Gentile woman that's there and she finds favor in your eyes and you decide you want to marry her, so you can't marry her immediately. You have to keep her in your house for 1 month. She sits around in your house for 1 month and she cries for her father and her mother 1 month. She mourns her town, the place where we took her from. Mourns her mother and her father for 1 month. So it says this is talking about the month of Elul. Every Jew, that we should mourn our mother and father. In other words, God who's creating us. And what are we mourning? We're mourning that we didn't serve God. We didn't use the opportunity, the life that we had in the previous year. We didn't use it as we could have. So we weep for our mother and father 1 month. And by means of this, you come to the completion of the redemption. When we regret not serving God properly in a happy way, we regret it. So then we change. I mean, the purpose is not to regret. The purpose is that you should feel bitter about the past and make resolutions to not repeat the mistakes of the past. And that's what brings to what we call the geula, the view redemption. Like it's hinted at the end of our parsha, it says afterwards, Bo'alel be'alta, and afterwards, this Gentile woman that you take as prisoner, then afterwards you can marry her. You can have relations with her after 1 month. And then she'll be for you as a wife. Namely, Kenyan, like we said before, Bayomahu, on this day, Tikri li ishi. It says in the prophet, where is it the prophet? Prophet Hosea. On that day, the Jewish people will be called my wife. And God will be called my husband. My husband, the Jewish people will say, God, you are my husband. Wasn't it like the rabbi was to say, limud, limot, in the days of the Mashiach, will be a marriage. Like it says, it says that the one who has marital relations, he makes you to be important. So the Jewish people, when they received the Torah, that was the wedding day of God, the wedding day. And up to now, the wedding has not been truly consummated between us and God. God and the Jewish people, we've only been, married, but not officially married, right? But not factually married. God is not, we don't know what it means to really be unified with God. All these 3,000 years since the Torah was given, it says the Moshiach comes, then the marriage will be consummated. So this is the preparation for therefore it's to fix up the past year and also to prepare for the future year, for next year. Alpis, according to this, now we can say that in the month of Elul is especially stressed the joining of these two things we just talked about, working for God and getting a reward from God. Well, in the beginning of the service of this next year, this is after we've already finished the previous year serving God. Okay, whatever we did in the previous year is permanent. It's permanent. Any good things that a person does, those things are permanent. Any things that a person does which are not good, they are not permanent. That's the whole idea of hell and what is it, perdition. The bad things get wiped away, but the good things do not get wiped away. Good things are permanent. So you come to the end of the year and you've realized the whole year you've had opportunities to do good things. The more good things you did, the more permanent blessing you've brought into the world. You start to regret, I didn't do enough. You start to think, I didn't do enough. I feel bad. That encourages you then to say, okay, I'm still alive. I still have a chance. I won't be lazy the coming year. I won't misuse my time in the previous year. And that's the idea of joining two things together, serving God and receiving the reward. Shabbat in the beginning, when you start to serve next year, will be after the receiving of the reward from the previous year. And this whole idea is hinted at also in the name Elul. The letters of Elul are Ani Ledodi Vadodi Li. I am to my beloved, and my beloved is to me. This is King Solomon is speaking about the relationship between the Jewish people and God. God is my beloved. God loves us and we love him. The beginning of deciding to serve God, right? You decide you want to take an example. A Jew decides he's going to put on tefillin. He decides he's going to put on tefillin. He decides he's going to put on tefillin, let's say, once a week. Once a week. And he puts on tefillin once a week. Then little by little he decides, you know what? I'll put on tefillin twice a week. And then someone tells him, you know, you don't have to put tefillin on first thing in the morning. You should, but if you don't, then you can put it on until the sun sets. Oh, I didn't know that. So you know what? Now I have time. I'll come home from work. I'll put it on. So he puts it on, tefillin on. He puts every day of the week, 7 days of the week. Someone says, hey, you don't have to put on 7 days of the week. Shabbat, you don't put on tefillin. Wow, I didn't know that. So he puts on tefillin, and then the end of the year, he thinks, wow, this is the first year I ever really put on tefillin. I did what God wanted. This is really great. This is really great. Suddenly you start realizing, why did I do this? Why did I put on these tefillin? Why did I do it? Right? I didn't do it to go to heaven. I did it because it's good, because I'm a Jew. I'm a Jew. And a Jew is a person that is devoted to God. That's what a Jew is. God chose us. Other normal human beings, they don't devote their lives to God. Right? Who devotes their life to God? Every Jew devotes his life to God. Every Jew. That's the ideal of every Jew. Because God is not out of the world. God is creating the world. Suddenly you realize all these good things. That's the month of Elul. To my beloved. God loves me. He's creating me. And my beloved is to me. And God reacts to what I'm doing. Right? In the beginning of the service of God, you do it from below. I am to my beloved. Right? You realize that everything I have, God gave me, that God has given me, but still you decide, I'm going to serve. I serve God. And afterwards, God sends you an extra, inspiration. Mutgeshes, this is the whole idea of the service of God. This is the reward. That's the reward. The reward is that you start to feel inspired, inspiration. You really feel genuinely true that God is really created. Now, an interesting thing is, the example of a servant of God, well, there's really two, but the main one nowadays is King David. The other one is Moses. Moses is called Eved Hashem. It's called a servant. But King David, he is the example, the paradigm example of a servant of God. A servant of God. And we see that what happened with King David, he's had a lot of troubles in his life. But King David felt and was certain that everything that happened was only in order for him to refine it. not to let the world conquer him, but he connected himself to God in every situation. The world didn't get him depressed. It didn't get him angry. It didn't. Ani ledodi, I am to my beloved, the Jewish people and God. But often in a way of marriage. Marriage means they become one flesh. The Jewish people and God become totally one. This idea of becoming one flesh, that's what God said to man and Adam and Chava. Chava is Eve, right? How they got Eve from Chava, I don't know. Anyway. This is the end, the 40, the completion of the 40 days, which are Ani Ledodi Vedodi Li. See, look at this. Ani Yud, 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 40 days. That's the 40 days that Moses was on Mount Sinai. And especially the last 40. Moses went up 3 times on Mount Sinai. And the first time he came down after 40 days, broke the tablets. The second time he went up and he came down, God forgave the Jews. The third time he went up as he received the second, each time for 40 days. He received the second tablets. That's when God forgave. When did he go up? He went up on the first day of Elul. When did he come down? He came down on Yom Kippur. So that's the 40 days, which are hinted at by the 4 Yuds. Yud is 10. Ani, Ledodi, Vedodi Li, the 4 Yuds, and that comes down on Yom Kippur. That's the day that God got married to the Jewish people, Yom Chatunoto. That's when God gave the Luchot Achronot, that's when God gave the last tablets, second tablets, until the completion of the real, how do you say, consummation of the wedding will be in the days of the Mashiach. Then we'll really feel that the inner connection between God and us, Ulair. And to elucidate, the Nesuim, marriage, is from the language of Nasa, to elevate. Elevate. That's Nesiot Rosh. Nisuin, it's called Nisuin. Getting married in Hebrew, it's called Nisuin. Nisuin also means to elevate. Elevate. Sheshlemu ta b'Mashiach, that the completion of it will be in the days of the Mashiach. Like it says, Yorum v'nisa v'gavam od. It says the Mashiach will be, it's a sentence in Isaiah, the Mashiach will be high, elevated, and the excellent very much. Nasa, it'll be elevated. That's the idea of a nasi. In Hebrew, the word for a leader, for the king, actually is called a nasi. In the Torah, when it says that if a nasi does a sin, nasi is the king. But Al Yadona said Shlemus and Nasiot by means of the Mashiach will be that's the Mashiach. By means of the Mashiach will be Nasi, will be of the marriage and also the elevation of all the Jewish people. So again, what does it mean elevation? Just in simple language, right? You go to school, there's first grade, second grade, then you go to the junior high school and high school. There's different names in different countries, they call it. Then you go to high school, then you go to college. Each one is a higher level of education. Higher level means it encompasses the lower levels, and you get totally new insights into the topic that you're dealing with. That's called elevation. The same thing is a Jew's being elevated. What does it mean, Jews being elevated? In the beginning, you just have this very vague feeling that I'm a Jew. And you know that you're a Jew, and you know that somehow or other it's important, or somebody says an anti-Semitic statement, it's important to you, you're a Jew. Right? You don't know what it means, though. And then little by little, right, let's say somebody puts on tefillin, you connect the idea of being a Jew with God. And God becomes like an element in Judaism. And then it becomes more and more important. And then it becomes more and more valuable and precious. God. Each one of those realizations is called an elevation. You become higher and higher in your connection to the truth. And that's why it says the Mashiach will bring about the ultimate elevation in the Jewish people, will be married to God. This is the idea of the day of marriage of the Jewish people to God. That's the days of the Mashiach. Belashan a Yalkut Shimoni, in the language of, it's a midrash called Yalkut Shimoni. Shana Shemelech It's the year that the Melech Mashiach is revealed. I think I skipped a line over here. Yeah. Right. I did. I skipped a little. But it's not okay. Why is the Rebbe pointing this out? Because the year that the Rebbe is speaking in was 1991. In Hebrew, it comes out to be Tafshin Nun Aleph. And Tafshin Nun Aleph is the letters of Tinaseh, to be elevated. Now just to dispel a big misconception, a lot of people say that, the Rebbe said Mashiach is going to come 1991, 1992. He said it, and he brought all these examples, and it didn't happen. It didn't happen. I mean, okay, first of all, it's pretty obvious that the Rebbe is the Mashiach. And if the Rebbe is not the Mashiach, Mashiach is going to be somebody exactly like the Rebbe. Maybe it'll be Ashkenazi, maybe it'll be Sfardi, maybe it'll be Gruzini, whatever. But whoever the criteria for Mashiach were all possessed by the Lubavitcher Rebbe. He has to know the whole Torah. He has to do the whole Torah. He has to try to influence all the Jews to do the commandments. He has to fight against anything that weakens Judaism. And so the main thing is education. So the Rebbe had that example. So, okay, here with Tafshin Nun Aleph, so Rebbe said Mashiach is going to come, and Mashiach is supposed to change the whole world. The whole world is there's not going to be any more wars. Eventually there won't be any more sickness. There won't be this. And we see that, okay, let's say the Rebbe is Mashiach, but certainly has been wars, and there certainly has been a lot of heartbreaks since Tafshin Nun Aleph. Tafshin Nun Aleph, that was 35 years ago. It's true, there's been a lot of miracles. It's true, there has been a lot of miracles, and the Iron Curtain fell, and our enemies have shot like thousands of missiles at us just like a couple of years ago. The Hamas and these people, they shot 30,000 missiles at Israel. 30,000, and it did almost no damage. It's just incredible. And so good, it's true, but still, that's not what we're waiting for. We're not waiting that God stops the missiles and that there's no atomic bombs, and we're waiting for a world that's going to be good, where nobody's going to shoot any missiles anymore, where there won't be any more heartbreak like there's been for these 35 years. So what's going on? So some people say, well, listen, the Rebbe tried, and he's got a right to do so. And there were a lot of wonderful Jews before him that tried, and it just didn't pan out. But we're saying it's not so. We're saying that if the Rebbe said Mashiach is supposed to come, and this is the year that any second is going to come, on Tafshin Nun Aleph, so how much more so should it be now? Right? If it didn't actually happen then, it was the Rebbe himself said it's for some strange reason he doesn't understand. Some strange reason he doesn't understand what it is. In other words, we have to be waiting for Mashiach, and we can't say, okay, it didn't happen, so it's not going to happen. When it happens, it'll happen. Leave me alone. Right? The Rebbe is trying to dispel and to contradict that mistake, that excuse. It says Mashiach is going to be very, very elevated. It says that's the year Mashiach is supposed to come. It's Omer al Gag Beit Hamikdash. It says the Mashiach is going to stand. Yalkut Shimoni. It says the year that the Melech Mashiach came, he's going to stand on the seal on the roof of the holy temple, and he's going to say, Anavim, humble ones, Jewish people, the time for your redemption has arrived. We are found now in the last month of the year. It is impossible to, God forbid, to kiu Moshe Havtachazu, is Surichim Litkayem Tekav Miyad. Right. It is impossible to push this off, says the Rebbe. The year Tafshin Nun Aleph Mashiach has to come. And for some reason, God has pushed it off up until now. Says, but it can't be pushed off anymore. It has to be. So therefore, it has to be immediately this Shabbat, the arrival of Mashiach. We see that it didn't happen. So therefore, for sure, it has to happen now. Right, Pashtos? I know I gave the example a lot of times, but it's like waiting for a bus. You're waiting for a bus, and the bus doesn't come. And you call up the company, and the company says, hello, can I help you? He says, listen, I'm waiting there for the bus, and the bus has not come. What do you mean it hasn't come? I'm telling you, the bus has not come. I'm here waiting here, and I've been waiting for an hour, and it's getting cold, it's dark, and I want to go home. Right? The kids are crying. You know, what's going to be? He says, listen, hold the phone. I'll get, don't hang up. He said, listen, I called the driver. He had some unexpected delays. He's on the way for sure. He's going to come. He's a trustworthy driver. He's going to come 100%, right? So you wait the whole night. In the morning, what's going on? Why isn't he here? He says, I don't understand it. I just don't understand it. Any second he's supposed to come, you know what? I'll send I'll send a replacement. I'll send a replacement. There's going to be two buses are going to come, and this has been going on for let's say 2,000 years. Are you sure he's not going to? I mean, I've been waiting for 1,800 years. I know, I understand you. Believe me, and we're sending food to you. We're providing everything you need. We'll build you a little house over there. We'll build you any second he's going to come. Anyway, that's the situation that we're in. For sure, Mashiach is going to come. He hasn't come. Don't give up. It says not only don't give up, you have to be enthusiastic. And interestingly enough, Maimonides says in all of his commandments, he talks about what the commandments are. And the Mashiach, he says that even though he delays, I will await his arrival. That's like part of the commandment. Okay, it doesn't make any sense to me either why it's delayed so much. And interestingly enough, here we're talking about the Nasi. So an interesting thing that the Lubavitcher Rebbe said, he received a letter from the president of Israel. He received a letter from the president of Israel that, if I'm not mistaken, this was the Rebbe's birthday. I think it's his 70th birthday. So received a letter from the president of the United States of congratulation. So in Israel, the president is called a Nasi. Nasi, the same language is like the Torah uses for a king, a Nasi. And that's what the Rebbe says, also Moshiach, Nasi. So the Rebbe wrote him a letter back. It's very, very, very amazing, deep letter. It's quoted frequently. And that the Lubavitcher Rebbe said, please excuse me that I cannot call you a Nasi. But that's his title. His title was the Nasi. So I cannot call you a Nasi. Who was the president back then? I forgot who it was. Anyway, Eshkol, maybe. No, not Eshkol. Anyway, whoever it was, please excuse me that I cannot call you the Nasi. So because from my childhood, I had it woven in my mind that the Mashiach is going to come and he's going to explain all of the troubles of the Jewish people. And Mashiach is going to be a king, and he's going to be called the Nasi. Like the quote from Isaiah. And therefore, it is difficult for me to call any other Jew by the title of Nasi. Other than, please do not be offended that I don't not using the word. He said, since I was 3 years old, he said, before I went to Cheder, I already have it woven in my mind how Mashiach, the Nasi, is going to come and he's going to explain all of the pain and suffering of the Jewish people. Well, I mean, through the Rebbe's Mashiach, but he has definitely not explained all the suffering of the Jewish people. People who have experienced suffering know that there is no way of explaining it away. So how Mashiach is going to do it, it's going to be something amazing, but for sure has not happened yet. Nevertheless, that's the whole idea of not simply the month of Elul in this year is the end of all of our service of exile. Therefore, we should receive the reward of the days of the Mashiach and the raising of the dead. And until the reward of what's called the 7,000th year, that's going to be the reward of the tzaddikim in the future world, namely what we said, the raising of the dead. Some sort of a new revelation of truth, whatever, in the whole world, and especially when we're right near the end of the year. This year, especially, we're in Yud Dalet Elul, which we're not by the Rebbe. This is what we did yesterday. We're not by the Rebbe. There we go. Let's skip this because we did this. Hosafa Miyucheres, especially in our generation, that this Shabbat is Yud Gimel Elul, which it is not Yud Gimel Elul. By the Rebbe, it was because that year the calendar was like 1 week ahead. Anyway, what did happen on Yud Gimel Elul, the 13th day of the month of Elul? This is the day when the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, he got married. He got married. Yeah. This is Yud Gimel Elul. This is the day of the marriage of the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe. And a few days before that, Yud Aleph Elul. This is the date when his father got married also. Of course, years earlier. Shemimele Makomo, and his replacement of the fifth Rebbe of Chabad, that he got married also in the month of Elul, but on the 11th. Shemimele Makomo Yechido. And after that, in the connection to this, after Shabbat was Tet Vav Elul. This is the day when Tomchei Tamimim was established. The previous, again, there are 7 Rebbes in Chabad. The first one is the Alter Rebbe, right? First Rebbe. The 5th Rebbe of Chabad, he was the Rebbe during the First World War. He passed away in 1920. And he established what's called the Chabad Yeshivas. Before the 5th Rebbe of Chabad, called Rabbi Shalom Dovber, before him, people learned Chassidut, but they learned the ideas in different places. In general, there weren't very many yeshivot. And he established, but there were yeshivot, and he established a special Chabad yeshiva where, in addition to learning Talmud and law and etc., they would also learn Chassidut. Chassidut was mainly how to pray to God, how to arouse your heart, the rest of the world. So he said he established this yeshiva called Tomchei Tamimim. It was in 1997 he established it. And he established the yeshiva in the 7 days of the festivities of the marriage of his son, the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe. The previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, he got married, and a few days afterwards, in the 7 days of, it's called the 7 days of Mishtet, 7 days, within those days, the Rebbe Rashab said that he had established a yeshiva called Tomchei Tamimim. It said that he took it in 10 years of prayer to establish the yeshiva, but he did. Establish the yeshiva. This is the 3rd day of the festivities of the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe. That from it came the idea that he was going to do, that from the previous Rebbe came the idea that he should make a yeshiva, and he also became what's called the manager of the yeshiva, the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe. Okay, so the marriage of every Jew is a connection, a reflection of the connection of the Jewish people with God. What did we say? That God gave the Torah, that was his marriage day to the Jewish people. The Jewish people are the bride, and God is the groom. Every time a Jew gets married, it is a reflection of God's marriage to the Jewish people. When is this marriage going to be consummated? Like we said, the days of the Mashiach. Therefore, Mesayimim v'chodmim v'sheva brachos. Therefore, there are what's every day, every meal that's made in the 7 days of festivities after the wedding. So it's the festivities are this based around a meal. You make a meal, you invite everybody. You have a meal. People say words of Torah. And after you finish eating the meal, after you finish eating the bread of the meal, you finish eating the meal, so you bless after eating. But in the blessings that are made for a bride and a groom, there's 7 additional blessings that are made afterwards. And the last of those 7 blessings is Mehera, may it be speedily, should be heard in the cities of Jerusalem, in the cities of Yehuda, and the outskirts of Jerusalem. It says, Kol Sason, Kol Simcha, the sound of rejoicing of the bride and the groom. Who's the bride and the groom that is going to be heard in all of Israel? God and the Jewish people. How much more so the marriage, as if every marriage reflects the marriage of the Jewish people with God, how much more so if it's a leader of the Jewish people? The Nasi, who are called the leader of the Jewish people, is the previous Rebbe of his generation, and especially of Chabad, that reveals the inside of the Torah in a way that you can understand it, in a way that you can spread out the well springs outward. And that it says, Atimar will come the Mashiach. And a special, one second. My microphone is not working. Is that so? 1 second. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. It says the pupils that are learning in this yeshiva of Chabad are all called. Oh, 1 second. 1 minute. 1 minute. Something's wrong over here. Here we go. They are called. The yeshiva is called. I'm sorry. I'm skipping lines over here. That's right. Okay. It says that's the idea of Chabad Hasidut, is what the Baal Shem Tov heard from the Mashiach. And he asked the Mashiach, when are you going to come? And the Mashiach said, Yafutzu ma'inatecha chutza. When your well springs are spread outward, that by means of this, the Mashiach will come. A special stress on the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, that he is the leader of our generation, that in continuation with this, B'yachadim said, together with this, it was the foundation of the yeshiva of Tomchei Tamimim. The yeshiva of Chabad are called Tomchei Tamimim, the supporters. The yeshiva supports Tamimim, the, how do you say, the wholesome ones, the simple ones, the complete ones. Tamimim means all these things. Learning, those pupils who learn in the yeshiva of Chabad are called Tamimim. Why? Because they learn the Torah of God, which is the revealed Torah, and also the teachings of Chassidut. That completes the picture. We learn about the Torah and also the godliness of the Torah. That's the new Torah that's going to be revealed when Mashiach comes. We'll feel the godliness in every word. That's accomplished by Chassidut, at least begun by Chassidut. Below, not only that, that when we learn the inside of the Torah will be in a way of understanding. It'll be like learning something in the Gemara, that the intellect of man will be united with the ideas of the inside of the Torah in an amazing unity that there's no unity like it. It's the 5th chapter of the Tanya, including Vayu Basar Achad, they will be of one flesh. Me'en v'dugma, something like the preparation of the days of the Mashiach. In the days of the Mashiach, it says all of the Jewish people will be wise and they'll be great. The Jewish people will be great wise men and they'll know concealed things and grasp the wisdom of God. Also, the Jewish people will be called the soldiers of the house of King David. Not all Jews. The Jews are called the soldiers of God. It's true, it's Sivot Hashem. But those people who learn in the yeshivas of Chabad are called the soldiers in the army of King David. The idea of Chabad is war. Our weapons are education, light, that dispels the enemy, which is ignorance and darkness. That we conquer the Mamed or Matzav, the Chirfa Ikvas Mishecha, that we conquer all those who oppose or are not aware of what Mashiach is. And this brings about a revelation of Mashiach ben David in a way that we say, Baruch Hashem la'olam, Amen ba'amen. It's at the end of the, yeah. Amen ba'amen, okay. That's how we finished. That's at the end of what? Of Psalm number 70, isn't it? Look over here. I'm sorry. everyone, for the delay. Yes, I hope it is. No, it's not. It is not. Baruch Hashem. Amen. Amen. Okay, then maybe it's the end of. Oh, here it is. I'm sorry. It's the end of 89, right before Psalm 90. It says, Baruch Hashem, Amen ve'amen. The end of Psalm 89. There it is. Oh, if I just one more line, I would have seen it. Like it's the end of Psalm number 89. Ule'ir. And also to explain. Shabbat says that right now we have already finished, after all of our the deeds, 40 years from the passing away of the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe. The previous Lubavitcher Rebbe passed away in 1950, and this was 1990, 91. That we've already finished the 40 years. 40 years we've been spreading out the teachings of Hasidut in a way that God has given us a heart to understand and eyes to see and ears to hear. And now we are in a time which is relevant to the Psalm number 90. That the Psalm number 90 is finished by the words, Yehi Noam Hashem Elokeinu Aleinu, Umasi Yadeinu Konenu Aleinu. May the pleasantness of God be on us, and may our deeds that we have done be permanent. What does it mean, permanent? That God's presence will be will be evident in all of the accomplishments, all of the Torah, all the commandments, every good deed that we've done, and then there'll be the reward for all of what we've done in the past. One of the main teachings we can learn from this, what to actually do. Number one, advertise in every place that we are now at the end of our efforts. The payoff is any instant now. We've been fighting, battling the darkness of the exile for 3,000 years, 3,300 years since we've gotten out of Egypt. The reward is coming soon. Mashiach. We are in the beginning now of the payoff, the reward for the tzaddikim, namely to come to the land of Israel and etc. And this is according to what we see in the days of the Mashiach. The days of the Mashiach, beginning with what we should do. Learn about Mashiach. Learn about the Geula and the Beit HaMikdash. Very, very incredible. The final opinion, the only opinion, which is for law, Jewish law, about what's going to happen with Mashiach and who Mashiach is and the criteria of Mashiach, is in Maimonides. It's not found anywhere else. Everywhere else is opinions. Everywhere else are snippets of light regarding Mashiach. Maimonides puts it all on the table. That's it. Mashiach has to be according to the criteria of Maimonides. Of course, Maimonides didn't make it up. He took it all from the Talmud. And of course, the people in the Talmud didn't make it up. They received it either directly from God, the great rabbis. So, but nevertheless, that's Mashiach. So people don't know even the basic principles, the basic, laws of Mashiach. It's like screaming about you have to put on tefillin every day, you have to put on tefillin every day, and you don't know what tefillin are. But you don't know what tefillin. You think tefillin is maybe a fish or something. Who knows? A pair of shoes. You have to put them on. You don't know what they are. People are talking about Mashiach. There's a whole huge religion that's based on the Messiah, and they have no idea what Mashiach is supposed to be. They have no idea. They made up their own definition and they got excited about it. So first of all, you have to know about what Mashiach, the criteria of Mashiach, and what Mashiach is supposed to do, says the Rebbe, and then you're supposed to wait for it, and even more, you're supposed to tell others about it even more. And by the way, if you don't know, just very simply, you can just download it very easily. Just write down Maimonides, chapter 11, and the laws of Mashiach. Write it down. Chapter 11, laws of Mashiach. Write it down and see if you get Maimonides, chapter 11. It's all the laws of Mashiach, 11 and 12. But even more, it has to be done in a way that's calm, in a way that is happy, in a way that you do it with a pleasant heart, including also making forbringings, happy forbringings, pleasant things, and especially relevant to the marriage days and the 7 days of festivities after the marriage, when the opening of Tomchei Tamimim, the soldiers of the house of David, were united and trained, Kolel, including also the custom of the Jewish people to make a meal for poor people, something like the preparation for the, what it says in the future, then will be Schok Pino. It says then in the future, everyone will rejoice. Asher b'Doreinu Zeh, that in our generation, the generation of the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, that his second name is Yitzchak. Yosef Yitzchak means to be happy. Al b'tzchok v'simcha, happiness and joy. And he is the 8th leader of the Hasidic movement. The Baal Shem Tov is the first, and the Maggid of Mezrich is the second. And then after him came the first Rebbe of Chabad, the Alter Rebbe here, and then the second Rebbe, his son, and the third Rebbe, his grandson, and the fourth Rebbe, that's the Rebbe Marash, and the fifth Rebbe of Chabad, that's the Rebbe Rashab, right? That's number 7. And number 8 is the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe. That's number 8 is especially relevant to the number of Mashiach, like it says, Uz Yashir. Uz means 9, and is the numerical value of 8. He's the 8th from the Baal Shem Tov. Then this makes, which we're going to talk about Baal Shem Tov next week, because Baal Shem Tov was was Chai Elul, was the birthday of the Baal Shem Tov. This made Yomalei Schok Pinu, then our mouth will be filled with joy, rejoicing. Not just in a way of us, then it will be, but in a way present now. Number 1. So that's number 1 we should do. Advertise Mashiach. Advertise the necessity of Mashiach. Advertise what Mashiach is. Advertise that Mashiach is going to reveal godliness and teach others Chassidut. Number 1. Number 2, to advertise in every place. And by the means of the pupils of Tomchei Tamimim. In addition to the fact that every Jewish person, every Jewish household is a house of Torah and prayer and Gemilah Chasadim, but also there has to be a yeshiva, a special yeshiva like Tomchei Tamimim, by means of learning Torah Chassidut in every house. Number 1, number 2. So make your house into a yeshiva and learn Chassidut there. Number 3, to advertise everywhere and making special efforts that you must provide the needs of the holiday to anyone who needs it. 30 days before the holiday. That's going to be the 15th day of Elul, is 30 days before the 15th day of, but nevertheless, the holidays of Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, especially Rosh Hashanah, we make a big meal. And Yom Kippur, you have to eat before and after. So there's people who are poor, provide their needs. And even before this, regarding the necessities of Rosh Hashanah, like it says, you have to eat, how do you say, fat meat and things like that, because you're supposed to be happy before Rosh Hashanah. May it be God's will that by means of talking about these things and the good resolutions that we're making, immediately it should be that God will give every single Jew all that he needs, miyado amaleo, from God's full, open, holy, wide hand. How much more so? And the main thing is that God should send us the geula mitzvah shlema, the complete and total redemption by means of the Mashiach. Or in the language of the Torah, like it says, we read in Mincha, ki tavo el ha'oretz, when you come to the Holy Land, that's this week in Shabbat, and you will inherit it, and you will settle it, take it over immediately. The kachtami reshit kol pri, it will be that we'll take from the first fruits and go to the place that God chose to rest His name there until the end of the Torah portion, where it says, God, we say, Hashkifa, God, look down from your holy place from the heavens and bless your people, the Jewish people. And Heichel, it should be the first blessing God should give us is the blessing of the Geula Mitit Vashlema, a complete and total redemption by means of the Mashiach, immediately, now, really. In summary, so what have we learned? We've learned that we have all of these signs that Chabad is bringing and the speeding up the arrival of the redemption. Mashiach is here. The place of learning about Mashiach is here. The soldiers of King David are here. We've suffered enough. We've prayed enough. We've tried enough. Any instant now should be the total and complete redemption of all the Jewish people.